23 famous people with autism who accomplished incredible things. Anthony Hopkins was diagnosed with Asperger's when, as he put it, "My wife was trying to figure out who she was married to." He credits Asperger's syndrome with making him extremely restless, and, in turn, an unusually hard worker. Andy Warhol was never diagnosed with autism while he was alive, but autism expert Dr. Judith Gould insists that he almost certainly had Asperger's syndrome. Warhol's monosyllabic conversational style, meticulously structured routines, and unique creative vision all show strong signs that the legendary artist was on the autism spectrum, Dr. Gould says. Alonzo Clemens's IQ is somewhere between 40 and 50, but somehow, he is capable of creating incredibly detailed and lifelike 3D sculptures of animals. No one taught him to do this, says Nancy Mason, his assistant. For Clemens, she says, sculpting is an unstoppable instinct. When they took away his clay, he would sculpt anything he could get his hands on. Courtney Love, singer of Hole, was diagnosed as mildly autistic when she was a young girl. Though she was unusually intelligent, she struggled with school and with social interactions. Craig Nicholls, frontman of Australian rock band The Vines, was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome after being charged with assault for kicking a photographer during a show. When he was let go under the condition that he'd seek help for his condition, Nicholls shouted out, "I'm free." When asked if Asperger's was the root of his destructive behavior, Nicholls told an interviewer, "Yeah, I'd like to say that. That's a good excuse anyway, for acting like a jerk. My very mild Asperger's has helped me creatively," says comedic star Dan Aykroyd. "I sometimes hear a voice and think, that could be a character I could do." Rick and Morty and community creator Dan Harmon has never been formally diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, but he's convinced that he has it. "I started looking up these symptoms, just to know what they are," he said, "and the more I looked them up, the more familiar they started to seem." Daniel Tammet made a name for himself when he recited pi from memory to 22,514 digits. His mind, though, is capable of far more incredible things than that. Tammet has the ability to master languages incredibly quickly, once conducting a full interview in Icelandic after only studying the language for a week. Daryl Hannah, the Splash and Kill Bill actress, has been fairly public with her childhood diagnosis of Asperger's. Hannah has said her autism has made her incredibly shy and fearful of large events. It is perhaps because of this that Hannah mostly stays clear of Hollywood anymore. When asked about his condition, Talking Heads frontman David Byrne says that he just sees himself as different, not defective. "We all don't have to be the same," Byrne has said. "I used to get annoyed when folks placed value judgments on sociability, implying those who are not gregarious or social are somehow less. It's just different." Derek Paravicini was born extremely premature at only 25 weeks. He was blind and suffered severe learning disabilities, but he also had absolutely perfect pitch. Paravicini was 9 years old when he played his first concert with an orchestra. He has played for Princess Diana and been featured on countless shows, usually labeled a superhuman. Eccentric master pianist Glenn Gould, whose performances were marked by strange habits like rocking and humming while playing the piano, has long been suspected to have had Asperger's syndrome. Every new hall, every new piano and every new person was extremely stressful to Gould, says Dr. Timothy Maloney, director of the music division of the National Library of Canada. As he grew older, he needed to be away from society. This is an arch example of an Asperger's sufferer. Master of Horror H.P. Lovecraft died before Asperger's syndrome became a recognized diagnosis, but few have been posthumously diagnosed with it as often as he has. Multiple books have been written about Lovecraft's unusual habits. He certainly displayed all the symptoms, one reads, a lack of empathy and concern for others, obsessive interests, and a work ethic bordering on the compulsive. Jedediah Buxton couldn't write a word, but he had an incredible ability to do math. In the 18th century, he found work as a human calculator, a man who could sum up any math equation anyone needed, entirely in his head. The inspiration behind the movie Rain Man, Peake was famous for being able to perfectly memorize any book he read. While he did not have the motor skills to button up his own shirt, Peake could perfectly recall the contents of 12,000 books. Leslie Lemke struggles with his motor controls so badly that he can't hold onto utensils without dropping them. When he sits down at the piano, though, he can play anything he hears. Lemke's foster parents first realized his talent when they heard him, without ever having taken a single piano lesson, sitting down and playing Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto No. 1 after only having heard it once on television. Composer and pianist Matt Savage taught himself how to read music when he was just 6 years old. By the time he was 11, his music career was so successful that he was signed to Bosendorfer Pianos and performing for heads of state around the world. The creator of Pokémon, Satoshi Tajiri, has been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. His colleagues have described him as reclusive and eccentric, but his unusual brain is the mastermind behind one of the highest-grossing franchises of all time. It's been widely speculated that director Stanley Kubrick had Asperger's syndrome. The director has been described as an intense, cool, misanthropic cinematic genius who obsesses over every detail. Kubrick's single-minded obsession with filmmaking was so strong that he could only enjoy life when he was standing behind a camera. I'm happy at times making film. I'm certainly unhappy not making films. Stephen Wiltshire is an artist with the uncanny ability to draw any landscape after only having seen it once. Pictured on the right is one of Wiltshire's incredibly photorealistic drawings. Temple Grandin's work has reshaped the way livestock are handled, thanks in a large part to her unique insight into how an animal's mind works. But today, she's best known for giving the world a unique insight into how the autistic mind works. Her books have helped tear down the stigma around autism and helped others to better understand how people with autism see the world. Tim Burton's longtime partner, Helena Bonham Carter, is convinced that the legendary director has Asperger's. "You start recognizing the signs," she has said. "We were watching a documentary about autism and he said that was how he felt as a child." Tom Wiggins was a master pianist of the 19th century, who could play anything he heard. Some called him the human parrot or the human phonograph. One of Wiggins' most impressive tricks was playing 3 songs at once. He could play Fischer's hornpipe with his left hand, Yankee Doodle with his right, and sing Dixie all at once.